Hey, what's up? Happy Wednesday. I think it is, right? Let's check out this question from Joe. And we're going to go a little bit in depth with this because there's a lot going circulating around right now. And this question comes from a video I did about 2 years ago. So let's check it out. It says, okay, so how will this be the third temple of God if the temple will be shared with Muslims, Catholics, and Talmud Jews? Hardly something to be numbered sequence. Oh, and just in case y'all know, there's no mention of a third temple anywhere in the Bible, and that is not true. If you look at 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 4, it talks about where the Antichrist will set his image up in the temple. Okay, it's not the temple that's in heaven. He can't get into that, can't desecrate it. But it will be the new temple that is set up in the book of Revelation, especially chapter 11, starting with talking about the temple. Now, there's a lot of talk going around right now about, oh, the temple's getting ready to be built, the ground's getting ready to be cleared. A lot of that video footage you're seeing is from 2019. It has been replayed and replayed and replayed. It is not accurate. If you do a really deep dive on this, you will see that the third temple will be built, but it will not be built until the first part of the tribulation time. And Elijah will probably be the one that initiates the building of the temple. Okay, you have 1,260 days when Elijah and Enoch, who I believe the two witnesses are, will come, and they will be on this earth for 1,260 days, prophesying, ministering, causing all kind of things to go on. Whatever they call out of their mouth to happen will happen. And if you notice in there in the same chapter, chapter 11 of Revelation, it talks about John, he's measuring the temple and all that. It says, don't measure the outer courts because that belongs to the Gentiles. And I know in your comment you say, how are they going to share this? Well, there's some different views on this. One is something will happen to the Dome of the Rock and also the mosque that is there also. There's a synagogue and a mosque there. Al-Aqsa, I think it's called, the mosque is. But something could happen to those. They'd be tore down, earthquake, whatever. But the temple will be rebuilt up on the Temple Mount. Now, there's another view on this that where, and when it says these outer courts, don't measure those because they belong to the Gentiles. But the temple itself can be built and shared with Muslims up on that hill. If you look at the Abraham Accords, okay, and this is a key thing, where you have, I think it's in Dubai, where you have the church, you have a synagogue, and you have a mosque, all three together in fellowship. That could be a scenario that happens in this Temple Mount area at a later date as well, as part of those Abraham Accords expanding. Okay, so the third temple will be built. The Antichrist will set his image up in it. Now, the 1,260 days when Elijah initiates the temple to start being built, they will never get to where they go into the sacrifice things in the temple, because that's when the Antichrist will come in and overrun and take over Jerusalem. And he will stop that from being done. And he will set himself up in the Holy of Holies as the God figure, which will be the abomination of desolation. And so when you dig into this, if you look in the book of Malachi chapter 4, I think it is verse 5, it talks about Elijah will come before the great and terrible day of the Lord. And if you look in Revelation chapter 11, the two witnesses start to come when the temple is starting to be built. So who will initiate that temple is probably going to be Elijah that initiates that temple. So far as how they would share that land, it's either those two areas, the mosque and the synagogue that is there now will be the Muslim synagogue that will be there now tore down, and the mosque with an earthquake or some other riot happening. Or, like the Bible says, they will measure just the inner courts, don't measure the outer courts because it belongs to the Gentiles, and let them have that area. So there could be set up something like the Abraham Accords, to where you have different religions sharing an area, but the temple, the third temple, will be built up on that mount where it's supposed to be built at. And then when Elijah initiates that, in that time frame of the 7-year tribulation, after the church is removed, and it will not ever get to the completion of where they can sacrifice in it, because that's when the Antichrist will invade Jerusalem and take over it, and he will set himself up in the Holy of Holies. But it's a really good question Joe asked. It's really in depth, really. I know this is a really in-depth answer, but so don't be, freaking out right now about the red heifers and all. They're getting ready to build a temple, and because some of the old footage is floating around from 2019 where they had the picture of the ground and how it's going to look and all that. So don't get your hopes up on that right now. But if you look and do an in-depth study on this stuff, and you guys know I love to do in-depth studies, it looks like it's going to set up to where the third temple will be built in the tribulation time, and Elijah will be the one that initiates this temple being built Because remember, 1,260 days, 3.5 years, they will be here doing things, ministering, causing it not to rain, causing this, causing that, and they will be a nuisance to the world. And they will get tired of them. And then they will be taken out by the Antichrist when God's ready for them to be taken out. They'll be taken out, lay on the streets for 3.5 days. A voice from heaven will call them up to heaven, and they will stand up in the world to see this. In that also, this is a whole different video, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. In that also, when those guys lay on the streets for 3.5 days, you look at Islamic tradition, Muslim tradition, if you're an infidel and stuff, they usually leave you laying in the ground in a public area to make a mockery of you. So it kind of makes you see what kind of connections the Antichrist will have in this kind of deal as we go forward to that time frame of the tribulation. But that's a good question, Joe. Thank you for your question. If you guys got any comments, drop them in the comment section. If you got any questions, drop them in there. We'll make some more videos on this stuff. But anyway, you guys have a good Wednesday.